How's it rockin', Dween Nation? You're listening to the Dween Sports Podcast. We're about to get underway. But before you give us a listen, we'd love if you could like, comment, subscribe, and share. We are posting weekly sports content, and we want to build up the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy.
Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Pies, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and we're here talking Week 12 action that happened today. We're recording on Sunday, so Monday Night Football has not occurred yet, but we have seen everything up to Sunday Night Football. Saquon going for 300 total yards, 2 touchdowns. Definitely won a lot of people their weeks and also lost a lot of people if you were playing against them. I was on both sides of the coin, so it was like a mixed bag, but just cool to see such a huge performance like that. We had a lot of good performances this week, some duds as well that we're going to dive into our top takeaways, as you know, for the week. But before we dive into all of it, how you doing, Genoa?
Yo, Dween Nation. Justin, I'm doing good. Tonight was a pretty somewhat of a letdown from the Rams side of the ball. But with Saquon, I think Justin takes the lead now there for Offensive Player of the Year. Still remains to see what Derrick Henry does tomorrow night as we are recording Sunday night here. But hey, it was a great Sunday night game, a great week. Unfortunately, my Texans had an ugly loss. So, Justin, I don't think I'm doing too good, actually. I'm still hurting from my Texans being so embarrassing. I had to take the hat off. I couldn't wear the hat today, Justin. I was going to wear it, for Dween Nation, but, a tough loss there in Houston for sure.
I know. And, I could kick a 28-yard field goal eyes closed. That was a crazy letdown spot for the Texans. Penalties again killed us. My biggest takeaway though on the week from what I've seen, it involves kind of two players, but it's mainly focusing on one, being that the running for Offensive Rookie of the Year, there is a new leader. All season it's been Jaden Daniels, and rightfully so throughout most of the season. He's been great. Washington was one of the surprises of the season, but now they've lost three straight games, a Hail Mary win in the prior game, so really almost 4 straight losses, and they seem like they're spiraling. The offense is getting worse. Besides a 86-yard touchdown to Terry McLaurin, so they're starting to struggle a lot. While another rookie, and Bo Nix, has been phenomenal with the Broncos. They've dominated the last 2 weeks. Obviously, they're really close to beating the Chiefs a few weeks ago. And so now, Bo Nix, to me, is the leader in the Rookie of the Year conversation. He obviously wasn't as high of a capital. I know he's still first round, but not second overall. He's not the Heisman winner. He's playing with not a lot of great options on the roster. Devon Vele and Sutton's having a great year, but Devon Vele is number 2 target on the team, and he's been so great. Sean Payton's finally working his magic, and things are fitting together, and they're in the playoffs race right now. So my take is that Bo Nix, he's our Rookie of the Year at the moment.
Yeah, Justin, you actually kind of beat me to this point, to be honest. To be fair, during this game today between the Commanders and the Cowboys, Jaden Daniels did struggle. It wasn't until late in that, mid-second half that they were able to kind of get things rolling there. It's crazy to say that I was thinking that during this game before Bo Nix took the field today at 3:00. So definitely, I agree with you there, Justin. Looking at those 3 losses you mentioned, they had that Hail Mary against Chicago, and then they kind of beat a lowly Giants team. They only beat them by 5, and then ever since then, Justin, they've lost 3 straight. Obviously, they had a 1-point loss to Pittsburgh. And then they had that Thursday night game where it was just very underwhelming there, even though they were kind of made it close at the end. Zach Ertz kind of had a late touchdown go ahead, I think 2-point conversion as well. But that game wasn't close really, to be honest. And then today, what we saw from Dallas, Dallas was able to hang on 34. Obviously, Kayvon Turpin had a wild kickoff return touchdown, probably the best we've seen in the past 5 or 6 years. I think maybe one from Cordell Patterson, in 2018, 2017, is probably the most the best kick return touchdown I've seen since then. So Kayvon Turpin was dynamic. It was very underwhelming today. But looking at what Bo Nix has done these past couple weeks, they could have beat Kansas City. Last week they demolished Atlanta. Obviously today they go to Vegas and have a great game. But, Justin, one thing I've noticed about Bo Nix is the way he's been able to throw the ball a lot better. He's had a perfect release, and it's reminded me a little bit of Justin Herbert's rookie year, where he was able to get the ball quick to his receivers. And you mentioned he does not have a lot to play with there. Cortland Sutton had a great game. But you also mentioned was it Vele, Devon Vele? He's a guy that we had no idea of. And even Marvin Mims, a guy out of Oklahoma who I was kind of high on a few years ago. He's starting to show his his drive and take to the team. And so Sean Payton has been very instrumental to this offense. And so I love your take there. And I do believe that next week let's see who the Broncos play next week, Justin. I do think that next week they have a tough game on the road. I believe is it home with Cleveland.
Home with Cleveland.
Cleveland. Okay, well, obviously Cleveland isn't all that well. They had an impressive outing this past Thursday night against Pittsburgh. So should be an interesting game at home. Hopefully Bo Nix can have a great game, and maybe he can solidify that offensive rookie of the year. So definitely like your take there. For me, I'm gonna go fresh into what I just saw the last game, the most recent game I just saw tonight in Los Angeles, and that is what I saw out of the Philadelphia Eagles. Justin, before the season, I had the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl, and I'm feeling good about it, Justin. With the addition of Saquon Barkley there, Jalen Hurts doesn't have to do too much, and I sort of got to thinking that last year maybe they were too reliant on Jalen Hurts, and they look impressive tonight without Devontae Smith, a guy that I love so much. We both do. We love Devontae Smith, and even with Goddard underperforming as well, he has fallen way down in the tight end ranks there. But you know what, Justin? Their defense that they've drafted in the past couple of years, all those Georgia Bulldogs with Fletcher Cox, and unfortunately we had just gotten news that I think Brandon Graham's going to be out for the season, which is very unfortunate because he is a leader on that team, very vocal. But Justin, they've able to been they drafted that backfield, or excuse me, that secondary with Blankenship and what was the guy at Toledo? I forget his name. Quinyon Mitchell. They still have Slade there, who got rocked a little bit tonight there, but nonetheless, this defense is solid. And my takeaway is that this is the only team that can beat Detroit is Philadelphia. There, Justin. They can match them. Obviously, Detroit has a two-headed monster, but I think that Saquon Barkley can match both of them, as we saw tonight there. When their receivers are healthy in Philadelphia, I think they can go toe-to-toe with Amon-Ra, Jamison Williams, and Sam Laporta, who's been having an underwhelming year. Obviously, I'll take Jalen Hurts all day, every day over Jared Goff. And this defense for Detroit, they don't have Aiden Hutchinson for the rest of the year. Zadarius Smith has been underperforming in his first two games with Detroit, and I do think that Detroit has a defense that's more solid. But Justin, what a coaching matchup that will be, though, if these two were to meet like in the NFC title game between Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni, two guys that are very vocal, who have very big personalities. And I do think that Detroit's only match that can beat them, it's not Kansas City, it's not anyone in the AFC, not Buffalo, not Baltimore. It is only Philadelphia.
I think that's a fair argument that maybe the Lions and the Eagles are the best two teams in the NFL right now, playing at all-time highs on massive winning streaks. And I was trying to, look at the schedule because obviously Detroit's up one game to Philly. But Philly, they have, 4 of their last 6 games are at home. Their hardest game is next week. They play at Baltimore. But Detroit plays only winning teams rest of the way. They play the Bears twice, the Packers and Vikings again. The 49ers actually fell below 500, but at San Francisco, and then they play the Bills. So they got tough matchups rest of the way. I could see maybe Philly vaulting above them if they continue this hot streak. And I think the biggest thing for Philly this year, as you had mentioned, is the defense. They've been super good the last handful of games, and that's what's turning around. I think the offense has been very solid. Saquon obviously is phenomenal, but I think the defense has kind of been the story that maybe isn't being talked about as much. But I like that take there. I completely agree. My next take though is about Tampa Bay and the running backs. You would think at the beginning of the year I wasn't high on any of the running backs. Then when Bucky started getting involved, I was like, oh no, he's going to ruin it for both of them. But now we got to a point where both of them are very solid plays week in and week out. And we even saw Sean Tucker get in the end zone. Now, my take here that they can coexist with each other and that you can be happy with them in fantasy doesn't talk about for Sean Tucker. But I'm talking about Rachaad White, Bucky Irving. I think they're going to be set and forget it plays rest of the season. And the best thing about him is their schedules rest of season is so juicy. It's great. I mean, they play They play Carolina next week. Then they play the Raiders. They have a Chargers matchup, which is hard in the first round of the playoffs. But then Dallas and Carolina. So 4 of their next 5 games are against bottom 5 rushing defenses. So, I mean, I'd be super excited if you have them on your roster. They're both getting catches, so they're both reliable in the passing game. And so I just love them rest of the season. You can start them confidently.
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. Ever since since Chris Godwin was lost for the season, we were able to see Mike Evans make a comeback this week, and he looked pretty good. But I do think that with Todd Bowles and this offense, they sort of realized that their only way into the playoffs to kind of compete with Atlanta, who's had a bye week, is to kind of run the football. And they now have a three-headed, a miniature three-headed monster. They're not major, but three-headed, medium-sized, headed running monster of running backs there. And you know what, Justin? They need to run the football to win out there. You mentioned their schedule. They do have Carolina and Vegas, 2 winnable games for sure. And so it starts with the running the football there. Rachaad Wright is kind of that receiving back out of the backfield. As to Bucky Irving is their leading rusher there, the guy that can kind of get all the ground yards there. And Tucker kind of just mixes in here and there, get a couple catches, get a couple rushes. So that's the kind of the way that the Buccaneers are going to have to play for Baker Mayfield to settle in, get comfortable, and get it to his guys there. So definitely love that take there. It's going to be a juicy matchup there in Carolina. And I want to see how those 3 running backs finish there. For my next takeaway is I'm going to go to the NFC West here. Now, looking at this NFC West here, let's kind of go over here. Let's start with Los Angeles, right? They just lost to Philadelphia, so they lost. Looking at the Seattle Seahawks, they beat Arizona, so Arizona takes the loss there. And then obviously San Francisco, they don't have Purdy today in Green Bay there. So 1 out of those 3 teams lost today, Justin. And I'm looking at this, at these standings, I just feel like, look, this division is wide open. I was very shocked to see Kyler struggle mightily today. I feel like this division was in their hands. Yeah. Once again, I want to give Geno Smith the sucks title today. He did play not so well today, but defense kind of carried them to the victory. He did throw a touchdown pass there, but he wasn't good in the second half really there, Justin. But now Seattle is the leader in that division. They're 6-5 above a 6-5 Arizona. And then now the last 2 teams is Los Angeles 5-6, and San Francisco's at 5-6. And so this gets very interesting there, Justin, right? So looking at San Francisco's, quick division, next week they have a Sunday night game against Buffalo. I do believe that Los Angeles Rams, they go to New Orleans. Seattle, they go to New York and play the Jets. And I do think the Cardinals, they go to Minnesota. So, Justin, my takeaway is that this race for this NFC West is going to be interesting because one of these teams are going to make the playoffs. It's not like nobody from the NFC West is going to be held out of the playoffs. One of these teams is going to be, in the playoffs. And obviously these teams face each other multiple times within the rest of the season. They definitely, both of these teams all 4 teams all face each other the last week of the season. So it's going to be very interesting, not only to watch on, for the NFL regular season, but a lot of these players for fantasy, right? So we're talking Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, Trey McBride. We're talking DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kenneth Walker, Puka, Cooper Nakup, and all these players, even when Purdy comes back, Kittle, McCaffrey, hopefully Debo can kind of come back to the fantasy senses. So all these players are going to be pushed out there, and they're definitely going to finish the rest of the season, which makes this race for the NFC West possibly the best we might see for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I like that they're all, as you mentioned, they're all competitive teams. Like, I feel like you could argue like are related to last year where the NFC South with the Buccaneers, Saints, and Falcons, those were all close to the end of the year, but those were all average to under average teams. Like we were like, there wasn't too many fun options there. But all 4 teams have very good options. Ken Walker, DK. You got Arizona. Kyler usually does better than this. McBride, Marvin, James Conner, then Kupp, Puka, Kyron, and then of course McCaffrey, Kittle, Debo, and Brock Purdy. So I agree. Nothing beats competitive football late in December. So you're gonna want those players on your team. The sad thing is, I think a lot of these teams won't make the playoffs entirely. It all comes down to the division, which will make it tight throughout. And there's division matchups rest of the way. I think there's like 2 or 3 for each of these teams. So I agree. I'm super excited for that. I'm interested to see who comes out on top. I feel like we might get a San Francisco 49ers surge late in the when Purdy's back, and that's kind of my prediction. Just because Arizona is so on and off that I don't know if I can jump on that, and then I don't know if I can rely on Geno, and then it comes with the Rams, and they're also on and off. The one week I'm like, whoa, this team is hitting all cylinders, and then the next they can't score a touchdown. So I'm interested on how this season will finish out, but I think San Francisco might have. That'd be my prediction. But I like your take there. Moving to my last take, and it's a sad one about JJettas, one of my favorite players in the NFL. With Sam Darnold, this last 3 weeks have been very ugly, been very underwhelming. Today was the lowest of those lows, and looking at the rest of the season and looking at how this offense is rolling out, I'm very worried about JJettas and his play for the rest of the season. I mean, he obviously is the best, if not one of the top 3 best wide receivers in fantasy, but with a quarterback he's not Kirk Cousins. Now, he had a very solid game, and it led to a good victory against the Chicago Bears. I think with Addison, who has been very good this year, and then they have Hawkinson, Aaron Jones can catch out of the backfield. It makes me think that he might not be somebody that you can rely on heavily late in the season. I mean, over the last 3 weeks, he is wide receiver 43. So things are not going well for Jefferson. He doesn't have a super easy schedule. I mean, he plays Arizona, which is he should cook. Atlanta, he should cook. Then Chicago, who just held him to 2 catches. At Seattle should be a good one, and then he plays against Jair Alexander again. So I'm a little bit worried about the rest of the season for JJettas.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there, Justin. So I do believe that this upcoming week's game against the Cardinals could be a potential shootout there. And here's just one thing about Justin Jefferson. He has had, I would say, 80 or more yards in all of his home games there. So, home with San Francisco, 133. Home with my Texans, 81. And he had a touchdown that game. Home with the Jets, or I think that was in overseas, but still 92 yards there. Home with the Lions, 81. And then 3 weeks ago, wow, the last time they were home actually was 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago against the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday Night Football. And he had 137 yards there. So I'm not worried about it at all. I think that Jacksonville game on the road was a fluke, against Tennessee, a fluke in Chicago. And I think that Sam Darnold, obviously he performed really well today. I do think that he is more of a home quarterback there, playing at US Bank Stadium in front of, the school, the whole home crowd in Minnesota. So I'm not ready to panic yet with Jefferson. I do believe he is due. Also, Jordan Addison had a big game today, and I don't see that happening much really going forward. I know a lot of people are going to rush and put Addison to their starting lineup. I'm not so impressed with that. I think Addison will probably be a good receiver next year. But for right now, I think that Jefferson kind of takes back to the helm for wide receiver 1. And I do think he has a great game next week against Arizona. For me, Justin, I'm going to go with what I saw in Chicago today. Obviously, the team that Minnesota played. And I'm going to go with Caleb Williams there. And he had a great game there, Justin. He scored by 35 fantasy points here. He had 340 yards. And this was the guy we were hoping to see there, Justin. 32 for 47, 340 yards and 2 touchdowns there. And this is the guy that people were hoping to see out the bat. This is the reason why people were drafting DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze. And Justin, he was very impressive today. Unfortunately, they lost. But my takeaway is this. When they fire Eberflus this year, because it's going to happen, they're 4-7. They're not going to make the playoffs. Not to mention that NFC North is loaded with the 9-2 Vikings and the Packers who won today. Not to mention the Detroit Lions, who are the best team in the NFL at the moment. No way that the Bears are making the playoffs. So it's inevitable that they're going to fire Eberflus. And when they do, Justin, if they were to bring a Cliff Kingsbury back from right out of Washington, if they were to get Ben Johnson from Detroit, or if they were to call up Kansas City and say, hey, Matt Nagy, hey, buddy, we miss you. Maybe we did you wrong when you were with Mitch Trubisky and them. How about you come back here and retry with Caleb Williams in this offense, right? Obviously, I think they had a different general manager there at the time as well. So maybe Nagy can kind of come to his senses and forgive and kind of take the helms of a new team. He's won back-to-back Super Bowls as an offensive coordinator. He's learned more under Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes on how to utilize that offense since the departure of Tyreek Hill. And, Rashee Rice had a great season last year. He's doing some good things with Hopkins and Xavier Worthy. So maybe he's kind of learned more in these past 2 to 3 years since he's been gone out of Chicago. But I do believe that when Chicago gets a new head coach, if it's Ben Johnson, Cliff Kingsbury, if it's someone different, maybe if Chicago wants to take Bobby Slowick off our hands here in Houston, they can have him. Nonetheless, whoever gets, whoever Chicago gets as their next head coach, they're going to have a pretty good offense to kind of go forward with. And this is the way Caleb Williams is going to be able to perform, just like this. And I'm excited for Caleb Williams going into next year.
I think you hit it on the nail. I mean, he looked very good today. He looked really good last week. They both are losses on very close games. One went to overtime. One they had the kick, and obviously it got tipped. But yeah, he's got the weapons. It's always been the coaching. Maybe it was mainly on Shane Waldron because now that Waldron's out, the offense has been looking better. I still think I agree though. Eberflus should be gone and will be gone after this season. I hope they bring in a good offensive mind for Caleb because he is talented. I think he will live up to the name. He just needs good scheming, and I couldn't be more in agreement to what you said. Especially with these options he has. I know Keenan Allen might not be on the team next year. He could retire. He's getting old. But DJ Moore, Roma Dunze is going to keep growing. Swift's still going to be there. Komet, and they still got a ton of cap space. So I think I agree. I really like that take you have for Caleb Williams for the future. Maybe not in 2024, but 2025. But yes, Dwayne Nation. Those are our takeaways from week 12. Hopefully, it'll help you looking forward. That's kind of what we saw and what we thought about. And we're excited to talk about more of week 12 discussion, but also moving towards week 13, the Thanksgiving week. There's also guys, be ready and alert in your lineups. You got 3 games on Thursday, 1 game on Friday. So we will be sitting out our content a little earlier this week, which we're excited about. Also talking about some college football as we're heading into rivalry weekend. But thank you guys for listening. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and share all those good things. And Jano, send us out.
Yo, Dwayne Nation, this was our takeaways of the week. Go ahead and check us out and let us know what you think. Or what do you think about our takes? Are we kind of exaggerating? Are we under-exaggerating? Are we right on the money? Let us know. And thanks for watching. We love you guys. And as always, peace.